Happy Friday, everybody. Jim McIntosh, Red Zone Sports. We're doing a little individual pod action this week. So I am going to take you through who I'm targeting, favorite stacks, and then I'm going to go through my top leverage plays based on my outputs here that I have set up. So let's kind of go through it. Let's talk about quarterbacks first. Obviously, we have a pretty juicy matchup when it comes to quarterbacks in the Kansas City LA game here. Mahomes, Herbert. I'm taking Mahomes every single time. Justin Herbert, I love the guy, but I just love the run back option with Eckler so much better that I don't really want to go get to somebody else, right? Really, really big drop off. You've got Mahomes and Allen, and then just goes down. I'm taking Mahomes if I'm going up there. I know that everyone's going to be on Josh Allen, it looks like here. But as you can see, we had the optimal leverage on Mahomes just cannot be ignored. And I'm sorry, I agree with the simulator here. Nobody else has a higher ceiling than Mahomes. It's an easy stack. If you want to add the triple stack, I think you could add Pacheco in there. I think that's interesting. But just go Mahomes and Kelsey and kind of move on from there. It's pretty simple in that result. Let's see here. Let's sort by salary. Yeah, you've got, I think Lamar is an interesting choice this week. I think, the only person you can kind of play Lamar with is Zay Flowers. I'm not a big Lamar fan. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the world. He's definitely not what he was back during his MVP season. So I'm just really kind of pensive about it. That's just a lot to pay. I think conversely in that game, I would just rather go play Jared Goff. I don't know why Lamar is 11% owned. I guess there's this weird narrative that Detroit's defense isn't very good. But at this ownership, it makes it really easy to just play Jared Goff in that same price range. If we're scrolling down a little bit more, I think Sam Howell against the Giants is a fantastic spot. Russell Wilson, it's a greasy one. It's a dirty one, but I think it's okay. Jordan Love versus Denver is something I have probably quite a bit of interest in. Like that, Christian Watson came back and he's now healthy. I like Romeo Doubs. And then I like Musgrave. He's got a lot of good options that I like. I don't necessarily know how high scoring that game is going to be. Right now, we got the game at a total of 45, so decent total there. So, I don't hate that. A 10-game slate, our options are just kind of going to be super limited, right? So that's something I like. I think that this Washington Giants total is just completely wrong. That's a game I'm going to be looking to target quite a bit. And look, you can make fun of me if you want to, but I don't think there's any reason why we can't play Tyrod Taylor this week. Look, he flat out just looked way better than Danny Dimes in that offense, which is not great, but it is what it is. And then Kenny Pickett coming off a bye. Don't love Kenny Pickett. They're not completely open to throwing the ball around the yard, like some would think. But I really just don't mind Kenny Pickett, that much. I think that he is, I think that they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. I think that their running game just is not very good. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a great, if you're down here, I would much rather play Kenny Pickett over Tyson Bagent. What a lightning ride if you're going to play Tyson Bagent this week. But I really like the Kenny Pickett play. I like the stacks you can send off of him as well. I think that we're probably going to have to, a lot of people I think are going to go to Geno this week. I have more interest in Seattle's running game. Geno, I know that everybody thinks that Geno's this like fantasy dynamo, but the fact of the matter is he just hadn't been very good this year. He's been much more like the Geno Smith of his entire career rather than the Geno Smith of recently, right? So look, on a short slate, I'm not going to overcomplicate it too much. I'm going to play quite a bit of Mahomes. I like Sam Howell. I like this Giants Washington game, so I'm going to get quite a bit of that. Have some interest in Love, and then Kenny Pickett is going to be my guy if we're going all the way down. For running backs this week, it's interesting. I like Eckler quite a bit. I'll pay up for him. I don't really care. Kenneth Walker, at a projected 22% ownership, is still positively leveraged, which means he's showing up in the optimal more often than he's being owned. So 25% was about where I wanted to be my exposure to with Kenneth Walker, and I was hoping I was going to be over at the field. It looks like that I'm correct in that, so that's a good thing. I don't have a ton of interest in Bijan this week. They need to throw him the ball more, and they just don't. Josh Jacobs is somebody I do have a lot of interest in, but so does everybody else. Saquon Barkley is somebody who's not going to get played just strictly because of how much he is, but I don't mind taking a shot on him this week. Sorry, taking a sip of my coffee there. I think he's got a good opportunity. Jahmyr Gibbs, let's see he was limited in practice. He's going to go very highly owned. Like, it's wild looking at this week. Like, I like James Cook quite a bit more than I like Jahmyr Gibbs going against the really bad Patriots team. The Patriots know that, I think that they're going to try and do some things to confuse Josh Allen. So I think the running portion of the Patriots defense might be a little bit more susceptible this week. So I really like going there. Really like down here in the fives. Like, I like Ramondre quite a bit. It looks like he's healthy. He's all right. He's now, they're now throwing him the ball a bit more in last game. The only reason why Zeke came in and played was because he went out with that ankle injury. So yeah, love that 5,600 there. I love Pacheco. I don't really care about his ownership. I'm going to play Pacheco. I like him quite a bit. Love the spot for Javonte this week. I think that 5,400 is far too cheap. Green Bay's defense is okay, but it's not very good, and he's just dominating the usage. So yeah, I'll take him quite a bit. I have quite a bit of interest in Jaylen Warren. I think it's going to be a good spot for him this week. Keontae Ingram is interesting, but down here it is really dirty. I mean, you start to see some of the names. Again, I think it's a 10-game slate this week. It's not a big slate. There's quite a few buys. You just keep it simple. You play guys that you like in the spots. Like, I like Eckler. I like Saquon. But again, I like the cheaper quarterbacks as well outside of Mahomes. Out of the four chalky running backs, Kenneth Walker is going to be my favorite there. That's the best situation we have out there on the board. So because a lot of the running backs are being heavily owned a little bit higher, you can see that there's not a ton of ownership up here in this top range. Appropriately priced, looks healthy, looks good, play him. Diggs, got to play him. Got to sprinkle some of him in there. Keenan Allen going to be a fantastic run back to your Mahomes stacks. So this is why I like the Mahomes stack. I like just playing Mahomes and Kelsey because I know where that's going to be, and then I can run it back with Eckler and Keenan Allen. Now, that's an expensive stack, but there's definitely ways that you're going to be able to get to that, right? There's guys in here that, it's just going to be, you can do it, right? Like, it's not going to be the most attractive thing in the world, but it can be done. Like you're gonna see, like I said, when we just looked at running backs, there's a couple of $5,400 running backs. We got some good value when it comes to wide receiver here. That is going to be my favorite stack, and I don't think it's going to be too heavily played, simply for the fact that there's just a lot of other things, and it's expensive. People will kind of get a little bit pensive about that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting guys up here. I definitely think that, Devontae Adams is at least interesting. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm just going to keep playing until, I'm just going to keep playing him. He's going to be healthy. He's the absolute workhorse. I really don't know what else you need to say. Just play Amon-Ra every week. He's their guy, especially with the running game out. They're going to really look to capitalize on that and get him more and more involved. I like Amon-Ra. He's probably my favorite wide receiver play this week if we're just talking one-offs, not in a stack. Scroll down here. Come on, computer. There it goes. We've got Amari Cooper. I think he's in an interesting spot. He continues to get great usage with PJ Walker. I really don't care. At 6,100, you have to keep playing him. He went for 400 against the Niners defense last week. 3% owned. I think this is the guy you just have to get to. He's really the main and only guy out there. So I don't understand why he's not as attractive of an option. I really, really like him, though. Zay Flowers, I love him at the price. It sucks his ownership is kind of getting up there, but this is a guy that I kind of just don't care about. I'm just going to play him. He is Lamar's favorite target. Yeah, enough said. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is an interesting option at 5,800. There's all this trade talk, and he's not playing a whole bunch. That's the only thing that concerns me right there. Going down here a little bit more, this is where it will work with some of this stuff. So George Pickens, I think, is a fantastic play against the Rams. I like Kenny Pickett. This is an easy stack with just these two. We've got Deontay Johnson at 5,000 coming back this week. Those three, Pickens, Johnson, and Pickett, are a super cheap stack, and not one that people are going to look to roster probably a whole bunch. Drake London, I think, is a really interesting option, as well as Marquise Brown. Obviously, Marquise Brown is getting owned a little bit. Terry McLaurin, I'm going to keep playing him. He should be way more owned than in the 15%. Drake London, I think, is a really interesting option. He's getting more and more targets, and there's just not a whole lot of it. It's him and Pitts, and that's about it. Tampa Bay is a pass funnel. I don't like playing like the Ritter stack, but I do like playing Drake London as a one-off. I think Romeo Doubs is an interesting option here. We've got Christian Watson at 17% owned, and Romeo Doubs at, $700 less at 6% owned. I don't think there's a massive difference. They take shots down the field to Watson, but I just don't think that there's that big enough of a difference to justify that gap in ownership. So if I'm playing one off, I would probably like him. Rashee Rice, for how much Mahomes is being owned, I have no idea why he's only 4,700. He's an easy part to get into that stack. He's emerging as the guy. I thought he would at the beginning of the season. We thought, a couple of other guys might get there as well, but he is really starting to come on. And, the nice part about having a guy like Kelsey is that it really does open up the middle of the field for guys like Rice. Super positive. I really, really like it. And, kind of just go for it there. Josh Downs, I think, is interesting. Everybody, the Kendrick Bourne secret is out. He's basically their number one wide receiver. They're looking for him. They're going to throw the ball to him a ton in the short and intermediate range. You can see how much he's popping up in the optimal. So 4,400, even with higher ownership, I think you still have to give it a consideration. Doesn't have to be a force, though. Going down, man, Quentin Johnston. I would really love to play this guy, but like, they just don't throw him the ball. And I don't understand. They don't make it a priority to throw this guy the ball. And it's a very strange thing why that's the case. Like, I don't get it, right? Like, it's just quite confusing why they choose to do that. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is a solid play, but again, he's up here at 19% owned. If that ownership is going to continue to track during the weekend, I don't know how much Wan'Dale I can get to, because I mean, he's a fine play at 3,800. And look, we may have to do it if we want to play some of these more expensive stacks to get some of these other guys in there. But like, that's pretty expensive. It's amazing to me how the mighty have fallen. Rashad Bateman down here at 3,600. I think that Rondale Moore is a great play in Seattle. They have all of their versus Seattle, excuse me. All their running backs are super banged up, right? So it's really difficult for them to get other people involved. That's why I like this. He's getting involved in that, giving him the ball while they're running. They're doing a lot of different things with Rondale Moore, which I like to see quite a bit. So at 3,500, he's probably the guy with my most interest down here. I just don't know if I can do Devontae Parker and then kind of going further down. That's kind of where we're at. Tight ends, like I said, Travis Kelce, pretty easy. Mark Andrews, okay. I have more interest in Sam Laporta versus Baltimore. Baltimore's pass defense is absolutely terrible. Darren Waller, I think this is a week. Not a lot of people are going to play him, rightfully so. He makes it really difficult for people to want to play him. But the flip side of that is I think that there's a lot of opportunity for him in this game. Washington's pass defense is not very good. Kyle Pitts, price starting to creep up a little bit. The usage is there. That's just kind of one of those things where you're just going to have to go for it. Logan Thomas let everybody down last week. If you want to go back to him, I don't think that's a horrible spot. Our guy Luke Musgrave is really getting steamed up, which makes me like Romeo Doubs even more. So in that Green Bay and Denver game. And then if we continue on down the list here, it gets a little dirty. I mean, Michael Mayer is his usage for the Raiders is really starting to pop. I think it's pretty interesting why he was just kind of absent. But, you know, I think that he benefits playing from a guy like with a guy like Brian Hoyer. I think it's going to be difficult for them to kind of push the ball down the field, even though they did do it a little bit. So I definitely have some interest in 2,700 at Michael Mayer. I think he's a pretty phenomenal play. And I think he's one of those guys where at 2,700, I don't know if you can get that kind of usage from anyone else that lowly priced. You could certainly argue that Trey McBride is a good fit for that. That's true. But Trey McBride also has Zach Ertz there to deal with. Michael Mayer is the only show in town. I mean, I know he's got Austin Hooper there, but look, they're not throwing the ball to Austin Hooper with great regularity, right? That's about as low as I'm willing to go on tight end. For defense this week, 10-game slate. It's going to be tough. If you're not worried about finding value, I've liked just kind of paying up the last couple of weeks if I could. The problem is this week is that is going to be kind of tough. Cleveland Browns are obviously going to be the chalk at 3,300. I've got quite a bit of interest in the Lions at 2,700, and it looks like some other people do too. for reasons I think that are obvious. I don't think you should be afraid to play like the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, look, a couple weeks ago we played the Giants defense at 2,000, and they got us like 9 points, right? It could turn into a big shootout there, that Arizona-Seattle game. But for 2,300, look, if you need to access those extra dollars to go make your lineup work the way that you want it to, I think that that's the most popular defense that I would be into. They have some talented guys, but they play hard. Say everyone, I capped on them. Everyone thought that this Jonathan Gannon guy is kind of a joke. Look, he's got the fucking Chargers the Cardinals playing hard, okay? These guys don't quit. They're not just getting continuously rolled and blown out, right? Gino's going to take some sacks. Gino's going to turn the ball over. So, I mean, at worst, I'm fine if they just get me basically like 1x and get like 2 to 3 points, because it'll allow me to fit some other things in elsewhere. That's something that I'm happy to get to, right? All right, that's it, guys. So again, just to recap, for my stacks, really like the Mahomes stack. My bold call this week, it pretty much got there last week, was Kendrick Bourne was going to be 25 points or more. I'm going to go with Rashee Rice, low owned in that big shootout game that I think it's going to be. I think that he is going to go for 25 plus points, and somebody that you're going to absolutely have to prioritize getting into your lineups. I think Amari Cooper is another guy that I'm really high on this week that hasn't had a touchdown in a couple of weeks. I think that Amari goes for 30. So you're going to see a lot of Rashee Rice, a lot of Amari Cooper in my lineups this week. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Have a great weekend. Peace.